We got in a lot of fights just because, well, we were cute and we wore pink. So that's all you needed.
You're aware, like, this moment doesn't last.
No. I was very aware. And I could
it's not like you just get off a train and like, hey, I'll get back on this train in a year from now. You know that train's going to be long on the track. And by the way, and I don't know where you were, there's also the predatory part of the music business where they don't care what you're going through. You know, go talk to this radio guy, go do this interview because they need you to keep.
Yeah, they need you to keep producing.
I want to talk about Zoot. How do I not know about Zoot? I went on my Zoot deep dive. And I was shocked because I love kind of psychedelic rock and I'm listening. I'm like, how have I never heard of Zoot? It was really good.
Yeah, it was a teen band that I joined after they'd had like some pop hits, you know, and then Led Zeppelin was on the horizon. And because I'm a guitar player, I said, you know, dude, we got to change this thing.
Do you still have the white SG?
I do. I do.
That guitar sounds good.
It's amazing. I use that I still use it.
Really?
Yeah, that was my first good guitar because usually, you know, when you're young and you want to trade up, get a better guitar, you got to sell the one you have, right?
Yeah.
But that one was the first American guitar I had because I grew up in Australia and England. But when I was looking for guitars, I was in Australia and you couldn't get Gibson or Fender. It was just out of the
What was the common brand in Australia then?
We had the German ones, Hofner. We had
Framus.
Framus. My first guitar was a Framus.
See,
yes, Framus Hollywood.
So I'm doing my research on you, and I see the band Zoot, and it was like think Pink, think Zoot.
Yeah, that was a teen thing.
And you guys all wore pink, right?
Yeah, it was horrible, dude.
And now, at some point, you burned the pink outfits on television. Is that true? You
have dived deep. Yeah, it was.
I couldn't find footage of the burning of the pink outfits.
But. Yeah, it was. We got into so many fights backstage because there was no security back in the '60s, you know.
So people just wander back. And
the guys would wander back and just start swinging, you know. And we'd, I said, we've got to get rid of the pink. So what we'll do is you take a photo of us naked, looking over our shoulders, but we'll burn it. So you know, I'd have original pink suits, but we'll. You know, high contrast it so you can't really see. Of course, they printed it, you know, in full color, and my mom went, "Oh my God, Richard!" But it was a good transition, you know.
Yeah,
shocker.
Cool story. So I was texting today with Sean Lennon, dropping a name, but I was texting with him, and I said I was going to interview you, and I was talking about Zoot. And he said he was in this really cool band that I've never heard of. And I said, oh, by the way, they covered Eleanor Rigby. And like 5 minutes later, he's like, this is great.
That is so wild.
You guys are a really good band. I'm shocked because I'm a bit of a, you know, I like 60s snob. I like a lot of that music. So the fact that I never heard the band was shocking to me.
Yeah, we had some interest over here from EMI, but we had a manager that was scared to lose us. So he said, you're not out of your contract. You can't sign. So it was they call it like a super group in reverse because I came over here and had a career. The bass player formed Little River Band. The singer went on to become a big TV star in Australia. So we kind of went our different directions and did other things when we, you know, been given a lot of because of especially to the pink thing. But I arranged this version of Eleanor Rigby thinking, how would Hendrix play Eleanor Rigby, you know? And
because when it goes to the other part, it goes to this kind of weird, almost dissonant kind of riff.
Yeah, dude. Which I'd never heard Black Sabbath at that point. And a couple of my band members have heard it. And I said, that's very Black Sabbath. And I said, I'd never heard Black Sabbath at that point. But it is the devil's interval, you know, E, B flat. Yeah. So I arranged this thing just for us to play live because I wanted something to really punch the band. And they started playing the live version and it became a hit on the radio. And it was stuff that would never happen now.
So, you know, it's hard sometimes. And unfortunately, I haven't read your book yet. I really want to read your book. Not even read
it's
research.
Dark.
I've made a lot of money off of being dark. So the dark's not a problem over here. But the reason I'm asking is because I'm a little unclear on the order. Did somebody start seeing that you had a solo career opportunity on your own, or did that come after the band broke up, or what was that progression?
Yeah, Zoot was, we broke up in 70, and I had this, I was going to join another band. I always saw myself as a guitar player in a band. I loved playing guitar, and I didn't really think I had much of a voice, so I'd started writing in Zoot, and they were recording my songs, so I was very interested in writing. But there was this one woman who was was a a magazine writer, and she was very hot on me being a solo artist. So she kept pushing me and pushing me, and I finally, I've got a song here, I'll record it, and became a hit. And then I started
What was the
thinking
name of the
about
song?
it's called "Speak to the
Yeah,
Sky."
Speak to the Sky.
It's a country kind of,
Yeah, but it was that kind of time, Mungo Jerry.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. It was absolutely. We were
it's
doing
got a little bit
heavy.
of that.
Yeah, we were doing heavy stuff in the Zoot by that point, and my mom, God bless her, said, why don't you write a nice song, Richard? So I wrote it, and my dad had gotten very sick at that point, and it was kind of a song to him, about praying that things are okay back to, when we all believed and all that, I guess.
Hopefully we still believe.
Yeah.
So you end up doing a record in London?
Mm-hmm. I got a deal with, actually, I was trying to get to America, and it was so friggin' hard. I couldn't get in. They wouldn't let me in, right? I'm just writing myself. And then I said, well, maybe I'll go to Canada and sneak over the border. And they wouldn't take me. So I said, maybe I'll go to Mexico and sneak over the border that way. And I couldn't get in. And finally, there was this guy whose records I used to buy when I was a kid, an Australian artist called Robbie G, had hooked up with Steve Bender, who was the director of the Elvis Presley comeback special.
Okay.
And Steve saw a photo of me and heard some songs and said, let's bring this guy over. So it was, again, manifestation. I used to see America in the clouds, and I want to go to America, I want to be in America. And so Steve brought me over and got a record deal. It was, the 70s, to sign anybody. Got a record deal, went straight to London to Trident Studios and cut a record, my first solo record. With Del Newman, who'd done all the strings for Cat Stevens, and it was and Robin Jeffrey Cable, actually, who had been Elton's guy, Madman Across the Water. All the first Elton stuff had been Robin Jeffrey Cable engineering. He had a terrible car accident and woken up and didn't know who he was. And they said, yeah, you've got the #1 album, Madman Across the Water. And he said, who's Elton John? And he was recuperating brain damage and everything, came to Trident and recorded my album with me, and was just brilliant. I mean, amazing sounds.
Yeah, and the tones on the record are really good for a first record.
Yeah,
especially back then.
Yeah,
But you had a lot to do with that, right? I mean,
sonically, absolutely, yeah. But I became very good friends with him, and he came over here, and I lost touch with him. But he was a very troubled guy because of that. Because he'd had so much, and then it had all gone away.
I saw some crazy story where there were twin brothers and one lost his memory. And, it was like a similar story where he didn't know who he was.
Right.
And the guy was like, I'm your twin brother. And the
Yeah.
guy was like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah. His stuff started to come back, but not, he always had something there.
So.
Lovely guy, though.
Yeah. So how do you end up in America from that, doing a record was Columbia?
Well, Steve was based here. Steve Bender was based here. And of course, being, their company was based here. So I went to London to record, then came back and just had a 2-year battle trying to stay in the country. That's where I met Elvis. Actually, was on a plane going back to Australia to renew my visa for the 40th time because they wouldn't give me a green card. We used to take all these magazine articles to the
consulate.
Yeah, and they go, no. So I'm on the plane going back to Australia to renew a visa, and Elvis was there sitting in the plane. The plane stopped at Hawaii. And before the plane landed, now when you get on, a celebrity's like got a hoodie on or glasses and sitting like this. He came back and signed autographs and took photos with everybody. I was in the back of the bus, of course, at that point. And I said, yeah, Steve manages me, because he had a great relationship with Steve over the special. Yeah. And Steve had been very encouraging and said, you can do this. Colonel wanted him to be a Christmas special with an ugly sweater and just horrible shit. And Steve and the Colonel was very angry with Steve for he felt like he was
Well,
trying to take Elvis away.
anybody pointing Elvis in the wrong
Yeah.
direction as far
So
as
I had a little conversation with him, which was great. And I hadn't been a fan at that point. I wish I'd taken a photo, because I've seen people from that flight, because I already had this blue suit on. I recognized
oh my goodness.
the look. They took photos with him, but I had a girlfriend in Australia at the time. So I just said, you just sign this autograph for my girlfriend. He did. And of course, Customs stole it on the way through. Australian Customs. Bastards.
I once had a run-in with Australian Customs because I had forgotten that I had some broccoli in my bag.
Broccoli you can't have broccoli in Australia.
The woman said, I can't do an Australian accent to save my life, but she said, you understand this is a very serious offense. You could be fined up to 300 American dollars. I said, it's broccoli.
Sorry, mate.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't bring that in.
Yeah, exactly. It sounded very much like that. So you do the second album, your second album, which is Comic Book Heroes. Cool album. I was listening to some of it today. It didn't quite do what they wanted it to do. Is that accurate?
Mm. It was the only good review I think I've ever gotten in Rolling Stone. They said,
friend of Elvis.
Yes, it said sounds like teenage David Bowie. They said was the review of the album, which whatever. But I mean, everyone's got the opinion.
It did have a little bit of a kind of a glam.
Yeah, well, I was very into Bowie. I was very into T-Rex and all Slade and all the English bands.
Yeah.
I missed kind of what was America? Was that getting into the Poco stuff and?
Oh yeah,
I missed that completely.
Southern, I don't know what I always called it cocaine rock.
Yes.
It just sounded like a lot of people doing a lot of cocaine. And they had lost their ears, and everything was kind of dull and
super mellow.
And this is an insider joke, but it was very what's the word? It's not Neve, it's the API. A lot of API going on. See, I knew you'd get that joke because you're a studio nerd like me.
That's a very in joke.
Yeah, right. So, so because we're all aware of how people perceive us. I of course, when you burst out of the world with your success, that's where you begin in most Americans. But
absolutely.
This whole kind of rich musical thing. And I knew some of that, but I was listening to it, obviously knowing I was going to talk to you. And it's like, it's very interesting because it's like, if that was your story, you know what I mean? Like people be like, oh, check out this guy who,
right.
You know what I mean? You'd be like something that the indie writers,
the cult thing.
The cult thing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find the right question.
Well,
what was your aspiration at that time?
I thought the whole comic book thing was really hip and avant-garde, and that was viewed as very teen, with the drawings and everything. But the thing is, I'd been Stephen and Robbie, because I'd come over here and the teen magazines had glommed onto me, right? And I'd never seen a teen magazine. In Australia, there was one magazine called Go Set, and that was it. There was nothing that catered to the teen. And I came over here, I said, wow, I'm doing a lot of interviews with all these people and, talking about my music and why I'm over here. And these stories started to come out like, is Rick Springfield too tall to love?
Well, the answer is yes.
Yes. Certainly from a 14-year-old that they were aiming at,
So you're saying you walked into a business model that you weren't aiming at,
and had no concept of it.
What was the business model you were aiming at?
I was a singer-songwriter.
But did you want to be like an Elton John type, or did you want to be a rocker type, or you were just trying to figure out who you were?
Yeah, I was a guitar player. I'm a guitar player.
Yeah,
and I always fronted with the guitar, and I was still kind of caught up in the kind of the softer rock, like T-Rex and that kind of thing was what I was aiming at. I kind of left the Zeppelin stuff behind with the Zoot, and I was focusing on kind of more poppy stuff. I thought that was my, just what you write what you feel, I only ever once wrote a disco song because I thought I should, and it was horrible. So, but you write just what you feel, and that was what I was feeling at the time. And the weird thing is, it didn't do very well. But that ended up getting me the record deal with RCA that started, my career. Was a Working Class Dog album. The guy, Ed
Yeah.
DeJoy, I went to meet him after I'd been turned down by pretty much every company in America. And he said, I really like Comic Book Heroes. I went, what? Say what?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And so he signed me based on that.
Okay, so at the end of the day,
It was a positive thing.
yeah, even though it didn't sort of sequentially line up the way you wanted.
Yeah.
So you're in America now, and I know it's not this simple, but suddenly you're acting. Can you explain to me how you? Because I totally get up to the point of like I'm trying to make it, I'm trying to figure out who I am, and the way the music business treats people like us, and that whole thing.
Right.
But then suddenly, like, you're on $6 Million Man.
Yeah. That was
Was that because you just needed money, or somebody picked you out of a lineup, or?
No, it was my brother had been an actor in Australia.
Okay.
And there was one TV show, and he was so good, he'd been on about 4 times. And as a younger brother, you're kind of going, I could do that. So I was between record deals, and I'd been poor, pretty much continually since I'd been over here. And I left Steve and Robbie because they kept pushing me in this teen direction. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was saying, that's not who you are. You got to drop them. So I left them, and Robbie sued me for $250,000, $250,000.
What was the basis of the suit?
That they'd put money into it, and I'd kind of just walked away. Steve was awesome. Steve just said,
was that spiritually true or financially true?
It was that they'd put some money in for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd also taken any advance I'd had. I never saw any money. It was just, they pay the rent, stuff like that.
The old school thing where they give you a salary.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know how much I got to signing with Columbia. I didn't know how much I got for signing with Capitol. I was signed all the contracts totally without a lawyer in Australia. Clueless.
Yeah. But that's kind of how I'm not defending, but that's kind of how the business was back then. You're lucky to be here. We got those speeches in the 90s.
Yeah.
You're lucky to be here.
Yeah.
I
was.
We can easily replace you.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very lucky to be here because it had been a tough journey trying to get here.
Yeah. Everyone
had been going to England from Australia because it's a Commonwealth country and you can get in. It was very difficult to get in America.
Wow.
But so I'm pulling money out of my piggy bank to go buy a Swanson's Happy Meal, and Robbie's going to sue me for $250,000
that you don't have.
Oh, and so it shut things down for quite a while.
Oh, because you were contractually kind of locked up.
Yeah, he wouldn't let me. I couldn't tour. I couldn't go.
So that explains why you're like, I need another gig.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I met his ex-wife, on the walking just down Hollywood Boulevard, and she said, "Why don't you come to acting class?" So I started going to acting class, and I loved it. Got lucky with a couple of shows, and I started to make money. Not, enough to kind of for rent and food. And
I did skip over one small thing that I have to go back to. This is jog your memory. Do you believe in magic?
Oh, geez.
Because I believe that I do. Yes, I can see. I believe that it's magic. If your mission is magic, your love will shine through.
Okay.
If there's one thing, but I like this song. I wouldn't be doing this to you if I didn't think this was a really cool song.
Oh.
If there's one thing that the world needs, it's a magic singing song. And I'll teach it to the whole world and make them sing along. Love is magic. It's so easy. It's not hard to do because everybody wants somebody to give a little magic to.
Oh, geez, this hurts.
But that's a good song. Now you did this cartoon.
Yeah, it was another. I had a lot of kind of weird side steps in my career at the beginning. And because I'd been on all these teen magazines.
So that was part of them trying to.
Yeah, ABC went to all the teen magazines and said, in 1973, said, who's going to be the next David Cassidy? They all said me, which, thank God it didn't happen. It would have been a very short career. I was actually up to replace David Cassidy in the Partridge Family at one point, which is very strange. And thankfully, that didn't happen either. So they said, and we got together. It was great. We got together with Disney artists from Fantasia. And they started talking about Yellow Submarine, and let's do something really different. and you'll write a song for every episode. And after I got through the ABC mill, it was just another Xerox piece of shit that was already on, with the same funny voices and the same storyline. And I was kind of locked into it. And I enjoyed writing the songs, but
songs are good.
I wanted them to be real. It was a kid's show, really. So I wrote.
What was the name of the show again? I should write it down.
Mission Magic.
Mission Magic, yeah. And there's an album if you go on a streaming system. You don't like the album?
DVD too.
Is there?
Yeah.
Are you starring in this series?
They drew me, and I did. It's my old accent, so I'm talking like this. It's Miss Tickle was the woman who would get me. I was in this magic land, right? And Miss Tickle would look through this mirror with all those students, and they'd come through, and I'd help them with the bad guy.
As you do, yeah.
Well, absolute garbage, but it was. Actually, Quentin Tarantino came up to me in a party. He said, "I loved Mission Magic."
See, you never know who you're touching.
But that's probably why he's so what? 6 years old.
So, $6 Million Man, Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, Wonder Woman,
twice.
The early version of Battlestar Galactica was called something different. Rockford Files. Mm-hmm. It's kind of not a bad resume.
No, there were some good shows. There was a lot of crap. But the scripts now are so wonderful for TV. And then they were you just knew they were going to be bad. There was the same stories, very predictable. But I was just feeling excited to work.
Mm-hmm. Like, you're in this cool band. You go to England, you make a pretty cool record. You come to America, you make another cool record. And then you do the Mission Magic thing, which I kind of got. The songs are good. And then suddenly it's like, he's a TV actor. It was like, it's a little bit like, huh?
Huh?
Yeah. So it makes sense. So how did you eventually extricate yourself out of the contractual?
He finally settled. Robbie finally settled. Luckily, it was just before Working Class Dog, which had, Jessie's Girl.
So you were stuck in that thing for that long.
Mm.
Was that 4 years?
Yeah,
5 years?
It was longer than that, actually. And he said, I don't think there's he had 100% of my writing, right?
So you don't own any of that stuff then?
No, I do now.
Oh, you got it all back?
Because he came to me and said, it was about to end, but the album was going to come out, and all those songs would have been 100% hit. So he came to me and said, I don't hear any hits on this record. So how about I give you 50% of it all back, and we go on for another year and a half or 2 years or something. I said, yeah. So I ended up with, half of what I should have had a whole lot, but he could have had all of it.
Yeah.
But I ended up with it all later on anyway. But,
Did you have to fight to get it back? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. But a lot of it was, had run out,
One of those, yeah.
And, you could, but it was just very serendipitous, because.
Well, that's 1981 is an interesting year for you.
Yes, it was.
You're on General Hospital.
Interesting sidestep again.
Which, by the way, I was also watching, which is, there was a girl in my school that I had the hots for. And
she was a fan of the show.
She was a fan of the show. So as a way to get in good graces with her, I started watching the show so I'd have something to talk to her about.
Oh my God. Okay. Did you get hooked or not? Or?
No.
Good.
She eventually, she did work at a chocolate shop. So the one advantage was I got a lot of free chocolate, but no, I never got anything more than the chocolate.
Yeah.
So General Hospital.
That age, you probably won more. So
your album, Working Class Dog, right, comes out. Your song goes #1. We all know the song. It's been stuck in my head all morning because the minute you listen to it, it's like it doesn't leave. I saw the thing reference to it said one of the slowest climbs to a #1 song ever. It was the 5th biggest song in all of 1981, and you won the Grammy for Best Male Rock Performance. It's quite a year.
Yeah, it was. It was a big surprise. I started I signed onto the show because RCA, I'd finished the record, and RCA didn't know what to do with it because ballads and disco were still on the radio.
So just because I love to pull these things apart a little bit, because it's like everybody watching knows the song, right? And it's like the Hollywood movie thing. Nobody believes, but we all know how the movie ends. It's a happy ending in this regard. So nobody hears that that's going to be a hit song. Like nobody but nobody.
No, Keith Olsen was the first one to point it. Well, actually, yeah, Joe Gottfried, who owned Sound City. I was doing the album with producing myself with Bill Drescher, and Joe, who owned Sound City, went to Keith Olsen, who'd he'd done Foreigner, he'd done Fleetwood Mac, he'd done Pat Benatar,
big producer,
and he said, "Would you do 2 songs with Springfield for this album?" And Keith had, on my first album, had been an engineer, and his job was to cut out all the clicks for the drop-ins on my first album.
Because in the old days when you would punch in, you had a little bit of a click on the track, right?
Yeah, and he cut out all the clicks on that album from all the punch-ins. So we, kind of knew each other from then. But he said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Let me hear the demo." So I've always done real extensive demos, back with the TAC 3340, and I had cushions for drums and an old bass that I plugged straight in, and the original pig nose, the manufacturer, the one they handmade, and then for voice Oberheim, and I did all my, bounce around and do backgrounds and all that shit. So I took my demos over to Keith, and he's listening, and I played Jessie. I just thought it was another song. He goes, "That's the one." And it had a big long solo in it because it was still coming out of the 70s, where there were solos.
Yeah.
So I'm playing a solo on it, and he's going,
"Yeah,
cut that sucker."
But it's amazing that he heard that.
Yeah, he did. And it was you listen to the demo, and it's pretty much the song.
Yeah.
It's all the parts are there and everything, and then he brought in Sammy Hagar, a song about "I've Done Everything for You," and I'm going, "Oh, dude, there's more songs." Because I was very confident of this record. I felt like I'd hit something 3-minute songs.
You were right.
Yeah. And but it worked out, and this "I've Done Everything" worked out. It was a hit too. But yeah, Keith was the first one to, and he said, "You don't need General Hospital." I said, "I'm going to take this show because I've had 3 failed albums. I don't know what's going to happen." He said, "This is a good album. You don't need to do General Hospital." I said, "There won't be any cross, they're all ladies watch the show. They won't know there's even a record out." And
but I was watching that.
No, but then it blew up. So I thought it was a soap opera. I thought only blue-haired ladies on it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And it became the #1 show in America. And Gloria Monty, who hired me for the show, came up 6 weeks later and said, "I hear you're also a singer." And I am not singing on this show. I've already, thank you.
Your tears, yeah.
I've already gotten enough crap, because they used to have AOR stations here, and they played Jessie's Girl because it was, it was the first one of the first guitar-based songs coming out of disco and ballads. There was Pat Benatar, and there was they were playing AC/DC on K-Rock, but there wasn't a lot of guitar. There was the Cars. But there wasn't a lot of guitar-based stuff, and they didn't know what to do with it. And they kept holding it and holding it and holding it, which is why I took General Hospital, because I thought, "Oh, man, it's going to be another failed, project." So it worked out.
Crazy. Yeah, because, I remember when that song first came on the radio, and I liked it a lot. And I don't normally like music like that. And even when I was a teen, I was a bit of a rock snob. I was listening to Sabbath and Queen.
Right, sure.
And
it's very pop, although it's guitar based.
But I remember thinking like, "Oh, this is cool because it's like what I like about guitar rock." And I know that it's pop, but it doesn't feel like lame and a sellout.
Right.
It had the right combination of factors.
Yeah, it does. And that's why I think it's lasted.
Yeah, it holds up very well as a song, but also as production.
Like that, which is I think if I'd done it, it probably would have had heavier guitar. But I think where the guitar sits is great.
Well, that's that time, a lot of those records.
It's very 80s,
cleaner guitar.
Yeah.
So now you're an overnight sensation, right?
Mm.
You got a #1 song. You're on this massive TV show. Like, where does that all go? And by the way, not to be maudlin about it, and all due respect, your father also passed away in 1981. I mean, that's a pretty intense year.
Yeah, it was yin yang for sure.
So where are you at in all this,
I'm incredibly excited because the song's getting some attention. And then my brother calls up and says, you better come home. Dad's on his way out.
Mm.
And it's still hard for me to talk about.
Well,
no, it's okay.
To at least be in the room with you. When my band was massive in '96, my mother was dying of cancer, and I was in this weird situation where I was touring and coming home to see my mom as she's withering away. So I understand the emotion of it all because I lived it.
Yeah, it's very odd that things happen like that.
Life is very interesting, right? It's always a mystery to me how these things kind of, because that's what I said. In terms of your life, 1981 is one for the ages.
Yeah, I'd gone to a party before that, just before that started, and had my tarot cards read, which and the woman said, "That is the most amazing reading I've ever done." And I always had a lot of confidence in myself.
Did you think she was trying to pick you up?
No. I've always had a lot of faith in myself. That I knew I wouldn't have stuck it out for 10 years in America when everybody else in Australia would come over and then go home. I knew if something was going to happen. And
was it just a feeling?
Yeah. And it was a validation. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's going to start now.
Yeah.
I mean, but I've always had a guy came to me when I was 17 years old, trying to sell me insurance at home, and introduced me to a book called Think and Grow Rich, which is by Napoleon Hill, which isn't necessarily about getting rich. It's about
positive intention and positive power thing.
Right, but it's also
power of positive thinking.
Yeah, but it's not just Norman Vincent Peale. It's very spiritual. He talks very spiritually, and it's a very deep book. It's the Think and Grow Rich is a bullshit title because it's a really deep book, but it's also very old speak. It's written in the 1920s, and I lived by that book. I had CDs later on, but I had read the book 30, 40 times, and it told me about visualization. It taught me about visualization. Where the only difference between us and the animals is that we can visualize a different future for ourselves.
Right.
And that's what this is about. It's the whole basis of all the Tony Robbins stuff and The Secret and all of that is all based on
it's the same idea.
Seeing where you want to be and believing it with all your heart and soul.
Okay, so to follow the thread, if you've manifested this moment, okay, how did you deal with the moment? Was it what you hoped it would be?
Took long enough. Seriously, I mean, it was exciting, but it was, oh my God, it was exactly like I thought it would be.
Yeah.
The people trying to be your friends, and the girl attention, and the excitement, and the playing a riff. And I used to went and saw the Kinks when I was young, and and everyone lit up, and I'm going, God, I'd love to.
Yeah,
I'd love to have that.
And you've done it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff. And then my dad. I went to my brother called me up that morning, got up and said, "Dad's gone."
Oh my goodness.
And I had to go to General Hospital, and I said, Dad would want me to go. He wouldn't want me to shirk that. So I went, and it was brutal. I do a scene, and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want anyone to know, and then go off in the corner and I cry for a while, and then come back and do the scene. And I finally went to Gloria and said, my dad died. I got to go. And she let me off for a couple of days. So I flew home that night, and took care of it, and then came back and went back on the show. And it was I remember flying to Florida to do some radio thing, and a radio guy there Scott Shannon still remembers it. He said it was amazing that you did it, but I was lying on the floor of the plane with my stomach in knots like this. I pushed it down to try and get on with things. But
Is it because obviously it's your father, but did you have a particularly close relationship?
very
Or
close.
was he your hero? Or
He didn't understand my music, but Mom said he would play Working Class Dog on the record. I sent him an advance copy, and he said, "This is going to do it. This one's going to do it." Because he died twice. He died when he was 51 from blood loss of an ulcer, and they brought him back, but he'd been out for like 15 minutes, so he came back almost like as a 5-year-old kid, And this is a dad that was in charge. He was a lieutenant colonel in the army, amazing human being, and so he'd sit, as he was kind of childlike toward the last 10 years. And
is it because when he was dead,
yeah,
but he lived, but it was something that would do with his brain? Or
yeah, we had brain damage because he didn't, he was dead for like 10 minutes. So he had brain damage from lack of oxygen.
Yeah.
We didn't know if he'd come back, but he didn't, he came back a little, but he was always very young in his, where he lost all his stress lines and, so maybe there was a positive thing to it. But I can imagine him sitting in the chair. Oh, yeah, this is going to be the one.
But I'm just trying to understand. And again, I'm saying it from a respectful.
Yeah, I may be glossing over because of.
No, what I'm saying is why do you think it still hits you so hard now?
Because I shoved it down.
Okay. Because you didn't deal with it then.
I didn't deal with it.
Is it because you were so busy and it was like, there's all the shiny lights that you always wanted?
Everything I'd wanted, and I felt like God was fucking with me almost.
Yeah.
But I also felt like I was being taken care of too. I mean, yeah, it was a very mixed bag in my head, and yeah, it so really affects me.
Yeah, I get it. God bless. Yeah, because I think what's hard for almost anybody to understand is when you're standing in that moment, in this case, you're in the zeitgeist, you're on television, your record's being played, and you had put in your 10 plus years, you're aware like this moment doesn't last.
Yeah, I was very aware.
It's not like you just get off a train and like, hey, I'll get back on this train in a year from now. That train's going to be long gone on the track. And by the way, and I don't know if you were, but there's also the predatory part of the music business where they don't care what you're going through. Go talk to this radio guy, go do this interview because they need you to keep. Yeah, they need you to keep producing. Yeah.
And I did. I didn't have any fears about doing a second album. I know. Sophomore jinx kind of thing. I just launched.
I can't imagine you would at that point because you'd been through it.
Yeah. But yeah, it upsets me that I am still so upset over it. I had wrote a song called "My Father's Chair" that I still do, and it still affects me. Doing it, playing it live.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can just get through it, but other times it still affects me, and it's part of a softness in me that I. Don't love.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. You've talked, and again, I got to read the book, but I know you've talked about mental health issues and stuff. So, explain this to me. Do you feel you've had mental health issues your whole life, or it was circumstantial?
No, I've been with me my whole life. I tried to hang myself when I was 16 in my garden shed, and I was failing at everything. All I wanted to do was play guitar. I discovered guitar when I was 13, and I wasn't that popular with the girls. I was passionate about girls, but it wasn't that popular. I wasn't in the clique at school. I was always on the outside. See, mainly a lot of the problem was that we moved. My dad was in the army, so we moved every 2 years. I knew that when I'd make friends, I'd be saying bye to them in 2 years, and I had no roots, which is why I've lived in the same house for 40 years now. And we moved to England when I was a kid, and I discovered guitars and girls over there. And then 3 years later, we're back in Australia, and it was whipped around from school to school. And so it always left me on the outside.
Sure.
I was never in the clique,
Yeah.
And also have the ADHD, so I lose my track. Help me. Help me.
So, under the stress of the moment, did you feel you were handling because again, you're in mourning over your father. You're having this intense, singular life experience. I've never had a number one song. You know what I mean? That's a unique experience, No, I haven't. I mean, I haven't had a number one album.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But what I'm trying to say is how do you feel you handled that sort of period, that 81 on period? Because you've had plenty of time to think about it.
Yeah. I handled it fairly well. I was never I never turned into a prick, I mean, my dad was great in the Army. He was when he retired, is the only officer where enlisted men came to his send-off. He was firm, but he was a good humor.
Yeah.
And I've always treated my band and crew like that. And on the road, they would always leave other tours to come with me because they knew it was going to be a fair. They'd be respected and treated well, and we'd have fun. So I tried to maintain. I did maintain that. I took advantage of the offers, of course, like we all did.
Yes.
Especially when you're a kid that was never sure how girls felt about you, and suddenly they're turning up.
Okay, so you'd resisted being the teen heartthrob, but like my memory of that time is like you were definitely like sex symbol would be the way.
Yeah, well, I was a heartthrob thing. I get that.
Yeah. How did you feel in all that? Did that feel strange to you, or?
Yeah, it's never something I've been like. Yeah, I get it. I mean, who does that anyway? But
I don't know, but
I did take advantage of it, obviously, like I said, but it was never something that I was comfortable about. I'm never comfortable when people would talk about it, whether they liked the way I looked. It was
because it was very much in those times about your looks.
Yeah. And it was annoying, really, a lot of the time. I mean, Huey Lewis said to me, "You would have been bigger if you weren't so good looking," or something like that. But I get what he's saying.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
get
the
it,
Peter
but-
Frampton thing, where he was so cute that a lot of people kind of, when the second album came out, they went, "Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know." I mean, that's it. My perspective is probably way off, but
Yeah, I don't know, but it's. I mean, we live in such a different time now.
totally.
The media then was different, but if you were able to break through with that media in those times, and you were typecast, for lack of a better way to put it, like the cool thing for me as a fan is I liked your music, so I didn't care what anybody thought about your looks.
Musicians are like that, though. I mean, honestly,
I'm sure you meet them. Like we were talking before we started the interview about Dave Grohl. Like real musicians like your music because you're really good. So it's like, you being cute doesn't mean anything to us.
Right, exactly. And we're not afraid to say, "Oh, I like this band, I like this song," because we understand it on a another level and how difficult it is to do something like that.
Oh yeah. And to be overly clear about it, I mean, you were writing and producing your records. Like you weren't some creation. Like,
right. And I think a lot of people thought I was because I came out of the soap opera. And AOR stations, back in the day.
Remember John Travolta had a recording career at one point. There was a lot of that. The guy from Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Remember he had a John Schneider.
Yeah.
Who else were you saying?
Bruce Willis had a record. Don Johnson.
That's true.
Yeah. So and they actually, I forged a type of person they look for in soaps from then on. A guy who could sing as well, which is where they got Ricky Martin and a couple of other.
Because it became like a marketing.
Yeah, it became a model, but it was purely by accident.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was talking about the suicide thing. That was kind of very messed up because I was serious, and it's always on my shoulder. It's weird. Just some dark part of me that I just can't. I have to deal with, It's just something.
Do you feel you've navigated it at this point in your life?
Yeah, I slip back sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's always there. But
is there a thought attached to the thing that plagues you? Like, some people say, I'm not good enough,
Yeah, it's
or
worthlessness.
unworthiness.
Yeah, it's worthlessness.
So a lack of self-worth.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
Probably just growing up where I grew up. And I was always, like I said, I was always the outsider. I grew up in an army group, where my parents' friends were going, "What's wrong with Richard? Why are you letting him play guitar?" Everyone else was going into service jobs,
I see.
Always felt like the black sheep. But the main thing that triggered the suicide attempt was just I was failing. I was failing in school. I discovered the guitar. All I wanted to do was stay home and play guitar. I was kicked out of 11th grade because I wasn't attending school. I wasn't popular. I wasn't successful with girls. And every arena that everyone was being successful in, I wasn't that good at sports.
Plus, I've spent enough time in Australia. It's a tough culture.
Yes, it is a very tough culture.
It can be very
tall poppy syndrome. You get big enough, boom, they'll cut you. Get on.
Yeah. And, obviously there's a lot of kind of comparative culture between the UK and Australia for obvious reasons. But for some reason, Australian culture feels even a little bit more harsh.
It is.
And that's to me as an outsider. And I love Australia.
So do I.
I love playing there. The people are great to me. Yep. But when you're there, there's a certain tone that's at times, as an American, where we kind of fake nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How long you staying, mate? When's the tour? I'll be gone home after it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it was difficult. It was a bully state for me. We were always getting picked on every time we'd go to a dance. We'd have to fight our way out. There's it's the only place I've ever been where in the bathrooms, all the pubs, if your mate gets into a fight, this is what you do. There's just it's the nature. I mean, I was over there. I've never toured as a solo artist over there, which is very weird.
Wait, stop. Hit the brakes. What?
Yeah. Because we do a world tour and we'd end up in Japan, and by the time we're done, I just want to go home. I couldn't, and so I never toured. I did one thing, a countdown spectacular where, you go on and you do 3 songs. And that was like 10, 15 years ago. And I got a couple of flights then.
Were your records successful there?
Yeah.
So there was a demand for you to go there.
What's that?
There was a demand for you to go.
Yeah, they were, we actually had a tour booked, and I got the Meryl Streep movie, the Ricky and the Flash. So I canceled it, and there was a lot of people upset over that too. I'm kind of viewed. I don't know if I think I'm viewed as an expat there, expatriate.
Yeah. The guy who left.
Yeah, I have an accent, which I picked up because of acting. I didn't want to have to worry about the accent because I would hear English or Australian people that weren't very good at the American accent, and I thought it would mess with me while I'm trying to relate to the part. So I just learned the accent, and then living amongst the people, it became a natural thing. First time I went back to Australia, I was in a club, and some guy goes, Rick Springfield, how you going, mate? Yeah, I'm good. I'm just over here for a couple of weeks. He goes, you're with your own people now, mate. You don't need to talk like that. So it was, I think that
welcome home.
Huh?
Welcome home.
Yeah, welcome home, fucker.
Yeah, right. So,
but I do love Australia. I have friends there, and I love the country. I miss the country very much.
You got married
in Australia.
Okay, there. See, that was you gave me the segue I was looking for. Another interesting year. You got married, and that same year you did Hard to Hold, which kind of starts your movie thing. I know you're not a big fan of the movie. I believe you call it a piece of.
Yes, that is probably. When I read the original script, I threw it across the room. This is garbage.
But before we jump into how much you hate the movie, was the sell job, hey, you've built yourself up, now we can transition you over to this movie career?
I wanted to do movies. Okay. I see myself as an actor musician. It's the same, comes from the same place. It's just a different skill set.
Okay.
And
So nobody was pushing you towards it.
No. I wanted very much to do it. I left General Hospital to pursue a movie career and to have more time to tour.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely. It was no, I wasn't pushed. It was just it was a bad choice of movie. I thought, and I thought, but I was at the point where I said I can make this work.
Okay.
The point where you get to where you think, okay.
From the New York Times.
Oh,
dripping sweat, with the backstage lights glinting off his jeweled belt and his single earring, James Roberts escapes to his dressing room, collapsing beside the Space Invaders machine. He's drained. He's exhausted. He's a very famous rock star, and he has just whipped another adoring audience into a lather. Hard to Hold is a movie for anyone who thinks this sounds like real behind-the-scenes rock and roll ambience, and for anyone who thinks Rick Springfield is a real rock star.
wow.
I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, because again, it's trying to understand the nuance of you're standing in these spots at particular times. Of course, with hindsight being 2020, we could say, oh, you should have done that. You should have done that. But if it was me and somebody came along and said, I am willing to back you in a real Hollywood movie.
Yeah. It was, it looked like kind of the right thing, I did.
Peter Frampton in the Sgt. Pepper movie.
Yeah. No.
That didn't exactly
Well,
help.
they're not actors, I mean, I consider myself an actor, and I'm better now than I was then. But I was better. I was a fairly seasoned actor at that point.
Had you had any acting training?
What's that?
Did you ever have acting training?
Yeah. I was in a class for like 4 years.
Okay.
Before I even went out to try.
I just didn't know if you were like a savant who was just good at a bunch of stuff.
Well, but honestly, the class was a lot of the classes are bullshit. They really are. A lot of it's really just about, being there, and they give the classes give you all this mental bull.
What's method acting and all that stuff?
Oh,
right?
no, method's great. I mean, method is really you take time and sit with it and imagine all this stuff is happening. And when, like, you ever been driving along the road and you just get an angry thought and you start thinking about it and suddenly you're pushing the accelerator. That's method acting. Nothing's really happening other than up here.
I see, yeah.
So you create all this stuff inside you. That's what method acting is. But there are other schools where they try and put it on paper, and you gotta have a goal, and you're trying to think this while you're trying to talk to somebody, and it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you have to unlearn a lot of the stuff you learn initially.
I have to jump past this.
I'm watching Meryl Streep.
Loving review.
Was an acting class.
I bet. So explain this part to me, because I only saw a note somewhere about it. Takes a mental health break, 1985. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
So, because again, big record, follow-up did, in your estimation, good? The follow-up record to the big record, right? So
yeah, no,
music career is great.
Yeah, there was
TV show, now you're doing movies. So why do you say I need to stop?
Because I'd moved to Malibu, and I had this big, beautiful Spanish house.
And you're married, and I
got married to the woman I really wanted to marry. I just had a kid, and it was what I thought I had wanted. And there was one afternoon I was walking around the pool, and I felt just as low as I've ever felt. And I realized at that point that this wasn't going to heal me, because I'd always thought all along, yeah, hit records, fame, money, I'll be more than I am. I'll be better. But after the initial, rise, it was still me and my shit, and that's.
What was it? Because I'm trying to find the right words. It wasn't what you wanted. It didn't fix the problems.
No, it was what I wanted. Very much what I wanted. But I thought that it would fix the problem with me.
Okay.
What was happening inside me.
So it was magical thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
if this thing happens, all this other stuff will get solved.
Why we get divorced and marry somebody else is because we think it's all going to change.
Yeah.
It doesn't change.
I learned that lesson too.
Okay.
So when you stop, are you just in Malibu looking at the ocean thinking, what do I do now? Or
I found a therapist, a Jungian therapist, who learn from Carl Jung. He'd been a doctor, and he'd seen all these patients dying and doctors covering stuff up. And he said, this is not the way I want to live. He's a very successful doctor. He lived in Beverly Hills, Mercedes, kids in great schools. Suddenly cut it all off and went to Zurich with his wife and learned under Carl Jung.
Mm.
And he was amazing. I started to see him. I saw him for about 5 years. And it didn't heal me, but it doesn't heal you. But you start to name the demons that are chasing you.
So what were the points of existential crisis?
Just
For you?
Initially, it's self-worth. I just felt just so worthless. I felt like this wasn't what I had was bullshit. What I gained was meaningless. It wasn't
because of the work that you had done and you felt embarrassed or something. It was you hadn't gotten out of it what you thought you were getting out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I felt like I wasn't worthy of it. It was luck. It was just, and now I'm almost he said I went in one day, he said, you look like a homeless person. And I did. I had like a scraggly beard and I looked like my hair hadn't washed. And I didn't, I went down, way down. And I had to because I was so depressed. I remember watching myself on an MTV interview where I, just played a big arena thing, and she's interviewing me, and I'm sitting there like this. Yeah. And what the fuck is that all about? To see it like that, it was. So I pulled the plug, and I just.
Were you getting pressure? I mean, I know how the business works. You tell your manager or whatever, hey, were they like, did they say you need to take time, or they were like?
No, they were nervous about it. They started saying, give us one more year,
One more year of driving yourself insane, and then you can take a break.
Yeah. And I said, no, I can't. I got to do this now because there's nowhere for me to go, It may seem kind of melodramatic, but it was really.
Sorry to interrupt you, but having experienced, I totally get it.
Because
I don't know you, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
And people would,
you probably wouldn't be here if you hadn't stopped.
Exactly. I know that for sure.
See, that's the salient point.
Yeah.
Live to fight another day, something we say here in this culture.
Retreat, gather yourself, and then go.
Yeah, exactly.
And I, people would go, what? They'd go, why are you depressed? Why you look at,
You got the world on a string and everything should be so great.
They didn't understand that it's still me getting up in the morning and looking at myself and going.
See, that's why that's such a powerful message. And I've done some interviews about mental health stuff, similar dynamics, is for people to hear that success doesn't solve those problems.
Success is a lie. It's something we must, as human beings, we must achieve. We must. There's all that thing, leave your mark, leave a legacy.
Well, it's even at the root of procreation, right?
Yeah.
I want to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to let the family go on past me.
Right. And then you have daughters.
Some form of hubris. Exactly.
And your name doesn't exist anymore.
Well said. So obviously jumping around, but just trying to make the points. No albums between 88 and 97.
Yeah. I wrote an album actually out of my therapy sessions called Rock of Life that was basically about my first son and how it shook me, and changed me. And that's actually one of my favorite albums because it had one hit off it, but didn't really do much.
But when did that come out in this?
88, I think it was.
So that was the last album you did before you're like,
No, I did therapy 85 to like 88.
Okay.
And then started writing because of the therapy.
Okay.
And then did that album and then took more time off. But then I got an acting gig that was a TV series called High Tide. That was with a a guy I'm still friends with, a Canadian who actually is on his 18th season in a show called Murdoch Mysteries. And we played brothers, surf brothers that were also cops. And we went to New Zealand to shoot the first season.
Is this a Down Under based series?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's a worldwide series,
okay.
but only if you're an insomniac or a night watchman.
Okay.
They played it was like big in Brazil, it was big in Germany, and it was like 3:00 in the morning in America. But it was work and it was fun. The scripts were pretty good. It was Tim Minear, who actually is now in charge of American Horror Stories.
Okay.
So it was the initial scripts were good, and we were excited about it, and we thought might be a big hit. And then we did a second season in San Diego, and then a third season here in Oxnard and what's that up there?
Yeah.
And then it folded, and that kind of took all my time.
I see.
And you didn't know where I was.
But so did you make a conscious decision to stop doing music, or you just got busy and you went there?
I got busy. I got busy doing it.
Because, if you look at it on paper, it seems like, okay, he takes a mental health break. Yeah, right. I mean, it's unusual,
I felt like I was kind of being active. I was in a career that I enjoyed.
But when people would ask you, why aren't you doing music, or when's the next record, what would you say?
I just said I'm working right now.
So you didn't feel you'd abandoned music?
No, I didn't. I was writing all the time.
Okay.
And I never stopped writing. I mean, I do. I binge write. I will write for 3 months and then won't write for 6 months. That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not the 9 to 5 guy or write every day kind of guy. But I was getting paid well. It was a successful show in certain areas. I felt like I was, still pursuing a path, not the main path, but I was still on a path.
Right.
But I knew I'd get back to music eventually, and that's really what happened.
Yeah, it's just it's how can I put it? Your arc is very unusual, you know what I mean? Because you came in as a guitar player,
mm-hmm.
You get dragged into pop land, then you go through this whole thing where you've got to kind of figure it out. You get in a contractual squabble. You end up being an actor and successful, right? And then it all converges at the same time.
Yeah,
and within 7 years of it all converging, your dream of music is kind of set aside. And again, I understand your explanation. I'm not arguing. It's just, it seems odd in considering the arc. It's very unusual.
It is an unusual path for sure. And I can't really explain it other than I've always just looked at what's in front of me and decided, yeah, I'll do that, or no, I won't do that. I'm not although I, talk about manifestation, that it's end results that I manifest.
Yeah.
It's not the steps to those end results.
So, I'm curious, how this culture works. It's like, my joke is I walk through the airport and people go, "Hey, are you the rat in the cage guy?" Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The identifier.
And I've done plenty, and so have you. But there's that guy in the airport that's like, "Hey,
Jessie girl,
how's Jessie doing?"
No, it's
you've heard it all.
Yeah.
So how have you navigated? I mean, it seems fairly balanced from the outside. I mean, you've stayed working, you released a ton of music. You just have a new song out that I just listened to. So how have you balanced all that? I mean, has it been tough for you to navigate, let's call it, the public version of your reality versus your actual reality?
Not really, because I have a very, I think I have a fairly accurate view of the public's idea of me,
But does that not bother you? You know what I mean? But is there anything you feel like you need to correct or amend or?
I'm not big on the legacy thing, all that kind of thing. I just, I've been through had a lot of, when Jessie's Girl first came out, I got a lot of crap from, critics hated me. And so I'm used to all that kind of thing, and it doesn't bother me. And so someone's odd opinion, I understand. They got their life right here, and they just need a box to put these people in
Yeah.
so that they don't need to think about it too hard, and then pick the obvious identifier, the thing that they first heard, that identified you with them, and they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So I don't, like have a new record out and you go on a talk show and they play Jessie's Girl. I'm going, play the new record.
By the way, I love the new record, Lose Myself.
Lose Myself, yeah.
Great.
Good.
I was like, I mean, it sounds like a 25-year-old guy having a great song.
Oh, thanks.
Very youthful, but not purposely so. It's like, it's just in you.
Yeah.
It comes out in your music. So
Yeah.
I was very impressed by that. Although I do have to laugh because I'm thinking, okay, so the most famous song of yours is about you being obsessed about this girl. So back to the lyrics. You're the perfect drug at the imperfect time. Before you crashed in my life, I was doing fine. I fall into you and everything fades away. You burn through the world I knew. Now I want to stay. And I want to lose myself. And I'm going to lose myself. I should be past this shit, but it still turns me on.
Yep.
So you're still here.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's great.
Just being truthful, it's like, I mean, I'm 75 and you think, well, you should have more of a view, a better view. But I'm, there's still this stuff I still have to, pick up a guitar and strut around.
But I'm saying it's in your music. I hear it.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm after, if it's like a meta arc, because every interview is almost as like trying to create its own little movie. Like, here's the beginning, here's the middle, end. So, America has a way of categorizing people and saying, oh, he does that, she does that. And I think you've repeatedly kind of broken this image, but it doesn't seem something you're trying to do. It's just it's a result of just who you are.
Yeah.
Most people would be calculated about it. You don't strike me as being
calculated.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's sort of refreshing about you. And our mutual friend, he told me that about you, and that's why he wanted me to talk to you, because he thought I would find that refreshing, and I do, because success in America, as you know, it's a very singular thing, and we've both been blessed enough to have success in America. It really is, it's the top of the hill as far as if you want to have success.
Yeah.
So, and there's been a lot written and a lot sort of broken down about how should some snobby critic at the New York Times view people like us if we don't sort of fit into their perfect little model of value. And I think what's interesting about streaming services and stuff like that is they're changing the idea of value.
How do you mean?
Well, people, if they like music, they just find it.
Yeah.
So my first reaction when I heard your song "Lose Yourself" was I added it to my master playlist. I was like, I love this song. Boom. It doesn't matter
who or
if I found that song from you from 82 or 2024, I'm just adding it to this playlist because I was like, this is a great song. I want to hear it again.
Yeah, I know. I do that too. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. We're living in this world of shifting value. No, people outside us will no longer be able to define what our value is. So I think that's kind of cool. And I think you're a great testament of that.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like guitar player to guitar player, because I'm a guitar player first too. It's like, once you're a guitar player, you never stop being a guitar player, right? And music has taken us all over the world and done all this crazy stuff.
I sometimes look at the piece of wood with 6 wires.
That's why I want to know if you still have the white SG, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to say is I think it's cool that you've just done it. You've just done it your way, and the world's kind of swung back to you in its own time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think everybody who's successful, certainly from, like, I'm not sure about now with all the game shows and all that shit happening, but we come up through, the clubs and the ranks. And
yes, musicians first, right?
And we learn and we, take the knocks. And I would play in places in Australia where I had to turn the guitar around like a club and beat people off the stage because they were fights. And that, some of these people that come up now, they have no idea of, and I don't know if they're I mean, it doesn't matter because there's some great songs out there, but you find your roots and who you are musically. I think coming up that way, coming up the slow way through the clubs and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an old view, but that's how you form who you are and what you want to write about and what you find important.
Yeah. So last thing, how do you our mutual friend, he was talking about seeing you live, and he was talking about where you did the song about My Father's Chair.
My Father's Chair, yeah.
And he said it was a very emotional moment.
He's very hooked into his dad too.
Sure,
Yeah.
but he was expressing how emotional it was for him to hear you do this song live, and he knows what that song means to you. And he said he was getting annoyed because there's people going, hey, come over.
You're gonna play Jessie's Girl.
Yeah, that whatever. You don't understand the simplicity of what I'm after.
Yeah. No, it's I've been through a bit of that, but I mean, I think of being in a club in Florida in 1976 with my then band and playing a song, and there's two people sitting there, and there was one over there. We finished the song, and nobody clapped, and I went, "Guess you guys didn't like that song, eh?" So, I mean, compared to
Here's
that,
another.
I'm okay with someone. I get pissed off at times, and I've actually kind of said, "Okay, this song's for you motherfuckers who were talking through my dad's song," and but
so you reminded me of being in a club in 1988, and the people were all the way over there at the bar, about 8 people, and they were paying no attention. They were paying no attention to us, and they were just talking because they were trying to pick each other up or drink their beers. And I remember thinking, I never want to be in a place where they can talk over the band again. And so at the next rehearsal, I said, from now on, we will never stop playing. And so we were in the habit where we would play, and then we would just feed back between songs.
Just go from song to song.
So they couldn't talk.
That's great.
So
I play loud. Turn it up to 11. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, last nerd question.
Yeah.
Okay, what amps were you playing back in those days? With Zoot.
In Zoot, I had a thing called an M&R, which was an Australian-made amp. We had, like I said, the American stuff was very expensive. So, the local guys would build stuff. I had an M&R.
Never heard of an M&R.
No. Fair,
good sound, though.
With good reason. But I had my Gibson was my SG was my first good guitar. And actually, I used mainly Marshalls. We had a horrible moment where we used PV solid states that didn't break up, and they were just painful as hell. But
synthetic fuzz.
What's that?
It's synthetic fuzz.
Yeah.
That's it says like fuzz.
Yeah.
It's a drawn wave. The sound of Lynyrd Skynyrd, though.
What's that?
That's the sound of Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Oh,
all three guys played PVs.
Oh my God!
Next time you hear "Sweet Home Alabama," that's PV.
Really?
That's the sound.
Well, kudos to them for making it sound good. I couldn't get it to sound good. And then, just used Marshalls and had for a while an old harmonizer between two amps.
Oh, you did
and dial it down, to get a thicker sound. That's what I used on Working Class.
Okay, last question. Existential Jungian question. If you had it to do over again, would you do it the same?
Oh no, I'd probably want to do it differently. Why would I want to do it the same?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no.
What would you change?
Because
you had a pretty cool life.
Yeah,
but it hasn't been easy at every step along the way.
I've made a lot of good choices. I made some bad choices. Personally, in my life, I would probably I'd probably tour the world more.
Australia.
Yeah, I went to Australia. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not satisfied because I think if you're satisfied, then you retire and you die.
It's done. Yeah,
I still have drive. I still have things I want to achieve, mountains I want to climb, all that kind of thing. Songs I want to write that are better, and and better just do more of what I love to do, basically. There'd be some things I'd change, but if I could nitpick, I'd be freaking
But
be perfect.
nothing major.
Well, maybe a
still
couple
do
of
the
major
movie?
things.
Would you still do the? Is it hard to hold?
Yeah, no, I'd probably. You know what? I was up for the right stuff, and I turned that down. I turned down going to read for that because I got hard to hold. So I'd probably go. You know what? I'm going to read for the right stuff and hard to hold.
All right. Thank you, Rick.